Gacha Fever is a Vampire Survivors like game that has the graphic style of a very cutesy game, and they describe themselves as Gacha Fever is a survivors like in a cute and colorful universe. You fight waves of monsters with various weapons, from the machine gun to the magical girl wand and the bubble tea cannon. Just be careful of the area. Now, for me personally, I really enjoy these styles of games. I've enjoyed Vampire Survivors, fan games like the Hollow Cure fan game, the Deep Rock Galactic Survivors game, and I've really enjoyed this style of like bullet heaven, I feel like some people are calling the game as well, and the roguelike nature of these types of games. Gacha Fever, at least from my beginning playthroughs and the couple of times I have played it, it does seem like a very good addition to that style of game. Now, just to be fully clear about this, they did give me a code, so I did get it for free, but the game itself is only $649 Canadian. So while yes, it is really nice for me that I, got this game for free, but it is quite a cheap game as well. And if you like these types of videos, please hit that subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it if you do. Like the video if you liked it. Comment down below if you'd like to see me do more review slash first impression videos on the channel. Now, to get back to Gacha Fever, I think the biggest thing about Gacha Fever, personally for me, is of course the graphic style, because the graphic style is very, saying one note I feel like is a negative term, but it knows what it is. It's very cutesy, the sprites are drawn very well, and it is very much a game that knows exactly what it wants to look like, which is good, and it's not confused about the graphic style. It knows what it wants to be. All the items look exactly what you would think they would look like. It's a very cutesy art style, which, I mean, they themselves say so in their description. And so, everything in the game is cutesy. The items are cutesy, the weapons are cutesy, the menus are cutesy, the descriptions are kind of cutesy, honestly, and the enemies are cutesy. And I feel like, while this is a big positive or not a negative for me, I think one thing for other people is that if you don't like this style of graphics, this is not going to be the game for you, because it is everywhere. Like, there is no not cutesy mode, there isn't a no cutesy stuff. That's just the way the game is, and all the game's graphics are like that, so that's going to be a problem if you don't like that. And I don't think it's something you're going to be really, and like, maybe if you like this style of game, you can get over it. Because, I know a lot of people didn't have a huge love for the way Vampire Survivors looked, because it was a very simplified look of the game. I don't think if you don't like the way the game looks, you can get around that. Now, I enjoy these bullet heaven style games, but I will say, just to start off when I'm talking about gameplay, if you don't like that style of game, this game isn't going to change your mind, most likely. The game, at its core, is a bullet heaven Vampire Survivors like game. You're going to spawn in a map, kill enemies with the weapons you have obtained, grab money and experience to level up, repeat until you die or you kill all the bosses. And that isn't going to be different. Like, if you don't like that gameplay loop, this game is going to change your mind, because even though there are different nuances to it and there are different things, don't get me wrong, it does have its own take on the genre of things and like what you can do with it, but the overarching goal and the overarching core gameplay is the same. And for me personally, that's not a negative. That is a positive thing. I enjoy this style of game and I enjoy the gameplay loop of these games. So not changing the core of what the game actually is a positive for me. Now, if you don't like this game, or not this game, if you don't like this gameplay style, this game isn't going to change your mind. And honestly, it's not trying to change your mind. It's not trying to convince people who don't like this genre to come over. Maybe if they don't like the graphic styles of the Vampire Survivors. So if like you like the cute, like they're trying to convince you like, hey, if you like Vampire Survivors but you wish the game had more style in terms of, or I guess cutesy anime graphics, then that would maybe convince you. But the actual gameplay, very similar, which for me personally is a good thing. But I can understand if you aren't a fan of this genre, this game isn't going to change your mind. To get into specifics, some of the things I really enjoy about this game is something that I only really realized after a couple playthroughs, because I honestly, the first like 2 times I played this game was really bad. Not because of the game was bad, but because I died so fast and really early, because I didn't really pay attention enough. It was a skill issue on my part, and I'm not blaming the game for that. But the way the game does stats and the way the weapons are based off of your own stats, I've never really felt like, especially Vampire Survivors, it did kind of do that, but the stats felt a little bit more impactful because as soon as I realized, oh, some of these things are based off of these primary stats, or like they have a thing that they are based off of, and the item gets better if you do more, if you, or the weapon gets better if you pick items that are based, that increase that stat. For instance, the character that I really enjoyed playing, Akimbo, she has a gun that, her starting weapon is a gun that is based off of physical damage, right? And I grabbed a couple more weapons that are also based off physical damage, and then I grabbed another weapon that was based off of critical strike chance, and another one that was based off of my life total. And I think that's really interesting. I don't remember other Vampire Survivors games, for me personally, that's done stuff like that. Now, I can totally understand that. I'm sure some other games do that as well. Like, you know, basing stuff off of stats isn't exactly a new thing. I'm not saying they invented it or anything like that. But them doing it in this way, especially with how the leveling up system works and how your items can directly influence your weapons, which, once again, the Vampire Survivors does do that, but this one feels a lot more connected. Like, they directly increase the power every time, if you were to choose so. And so I really enjoyed that part of the game. And speaking of how you get these items, after you beat one wave, well, I guess I should start at the very beginning. When you pick your character, you have a bunch of different stats, just like any other game. You have a bunch of different things that they could be good or bad at, and then they have a starting weapon, just like anything. And that's really standard for this type of genre, which, you know, I don't think they should be changing that at all. So I'm glad they kept with that. And one interesting thing is they do have a hard wave system. Now, not every Vampire Survivors like game or Bullet Heaven game does this. Vampire Survivors doesn't, first of all. And you just have to get weapons by drops, basically. Or, no, yeah, drops or the artifacts, I think they're called in Vampire Survivors. But this game distinguishes them as weapons and items. And items you can get by leveling up. The more time, every time you level up, you're going to get one more choice of an item when you beat the wave. And you always get to shop, well, always with an asterisk, and we'll get to the asterisk, after a wave as well. Now, waves aren't kill all the enemies, it's kill a certain amount of enemies, which is also interesting. I've never had to not kill everything, basically, for the most part. I guess the Deep Rock Galactic Survivor, you don't have to kill literally everything, but you have to kill most things. So it is kill a certain amount of enemies, not everything, and then you get a certain amount of items depending on how many times you leveled up. And then after that, you can buy items. And both times you can spend coins to re-roll the selection. And I think the item and weapon system is where I enjoyed the most of it. There is also a crafting system, but honestly, for these like gold items, and honestly, while it is cool, I don't know personally how good these items actually are. Because at least on the lower difficulties, it didn't really matter. Now, in the very beginning, when I didn't know what I was doing and I was just picking random items, well, not really random, but I was picking stats that I thought were good and not really paying attention to what my stats were actually doing to the weapons and or other items. It did seem kind of weird, but when you know what your items or what your weapons are based off of and you know what you want to do, like you have a build in mind, I didn't really know if going for the gold items were better or worse, the crafting ones. And I crafted one in one of the better runs I did, and like it wasn't a bad thing, but it also feels like it's one of those things where maybe one, I probably have to get better to like know what I want to go for, and two, maybe I just need to unlock more things, because obviously unlocking stuff is a big deal in these styles of games as well. So wanting to get more items, because maybe I just don't have enough of these items to know or to know what the good ones are. So that does make sense. Though I do have to say, a bunch of the items, you also need minuses. They give you like a minus thing. And for me personally, I don't like negatives. I don't like minus stats for items, so I just never picked those. But that's definitely a me thing. I don't like picking negative things. So that is a me problem, not a game problem. And that will vary between player and player, I'm sure of it. And I'm not asking them to not have negative stats. I totally understand that. You sometimes, for balancing purposes and for fun purposes, sometimes it's better to have some items give negatives to something and pluses huge positives to other things. I just personally am not a huge fan of those items. But they do have those types of items. I just never picked any of them. And going from items to the weapons themselves are cool and interesting, but they are very, I would say, standard for this game genre. Like, there's projectile ones where you shoot a bunch of stuff around you. There's ones that do the swing slices. There's some that do tons of projectiles, small projectiles, orbs around you, small AoE circles around you, turrets that you place down. It's all really standard in terms of the function of them, but the difference is they look really different because, instead of a pistol or like a gun, you have like a bubble tea cannon, like they said in the description, a life orb running around you, a karate belt or something like that, or like some belt that you makes you character stomp, and it's really interesting. And once again, the weapons being based off of individual stats, I think is really cool because it lets you go towards something like, oh, I need physical power and critical strike chance and life up. Those are the things I'm going to prioritize on the items, as well as, obviously getting the upgrades for the weapons. Now, the enemies, once again, I've felt like I've said this a few times at least, are pretty standard for this type of game, but with a cutesy overhaul. They're the standard enemies that you're supposed to destroy all the time. They slowly go towards you. There is no real AI to them. Like, there is no they try to dodge your attacks or anything like that. They just run at you, which is a good thing. Like, or they either run at you or shoot their projectiles at you. And there is, from at least from what I can tell, no other differences in regular enemies. There are the mini bosses that I've seen and the actual bosses that I've seen, which are interesting. They have attack patterns and everything like that, which is cool, and I enjoyed those. But the regular enemies are the very standard enemies. One interesting thing is there's a lot of damage circles in this game. First of all, there's basically a circle that slowly collapses into you, and it feels like it's almost like a battle royale circle that's slowly closing in, which I don't mind. But there's also just random circles that start getting bigger and bigger, and I'm not sure if you can get rid of those circles or not. This is part of a skill issue on my part, where sometimes I'm just like, these circles are huge and I don't know why. And I think this is another thing of where, like, discovering game mechanics in this type of genre is a big thing. The game doesn't tutorialize you and tell you what things do. You have to figure it out yourself for the most part. Like, this game doesn't hide things from you necessarily. You just have to know, kind of like, maybe intuit is the best way of what you're looking at. For instance, when you're selecting a weapon, at the top of the little crank thing, because it's a gacha thing, so it's a little claw machine thing, it's telling you what ability or stat it's based off of. And it took me a while to realize that that's what it's doing. Like, I don't know why it's telling me that physical power when I hover over this thing. But then, you figure out the icons and stuff like that. And that's part of the discovery of games like this. Another thing that I think I understand, but maybe if someone is a veteran or knows this game more than I do, is that there are sometimes on the maps little gacha machines that you can go over and you can slowly increase the percentage of, and then when you get 100%, it explodes, kills a bunch of enemies, and you drops a ton of loot and gold. It drops a bunch of experience and gold, or coins as the game calls it, I think. And from what I know, these are your gacha pulls when you want to pull new characters, and how this will unlock mechanic, because once again, it's called Gacha Fever. So at the end of every run, you get a certain amount of pulls to unlock new stuff. And that is the gameplay loop, which is really satisfying. And honestly, I do like how you can directly impact how many times you can do the gacha pulls. And I honestly kind of wish that killing a boss gave you a gacha pull. Maybe it's on higher difficulties. Once again, I've only played on the first difficulty so far because I don't want to I don't want to give more of a early look at the game rather than, I've played 100 hours of this game, because I feel like, someone that has early hour experience is also useful. So far, I think it is doing very well. Now, one thing we haven't talked about, we've talked about the graphics, we talked about the gameplay. The music is actually really good, and the sound effects are really good. I don't want to say they are, like, amazing, best ever, but they aren't bad, and me saying that feels bad because, like, I'm not trying to say they're average because they're better than average. I'm just saying that they're like a good, if I were to put like a score to it, it'd be like a B plus to an A. Like, we're not talking like A plus plus or anything like that, but it's a really good solid soundtrack and a really good sound effects. I do enjoy the all the when you choose a lot of the gun options, all the guns sound really good. All the little enemies when they get damaged sound good. When your character gets hit, there's a little sound effect that happens. I do kind of wish that there was a little more feedback sometimes when it comes to the sound effects and the graphics, because like the enemies have a hit notification, like they change their sprite. Your character, from at least from what I can tell, never changes the way they look. It would be nice if they had like a damage state, like if they get hit they have like an owl face or something like that, because I also think it would work with the cuteness, like even it's cute even if you get hurt type of thing. But I understand that is also probably a lot more work because you'd have to do the animations for it and all that type of stuff. So I understand why it's the character is not static, but always looking the way they look. And my one big criticism of this game, really, other than the fact, and it kind of goes back to the criticism of this genre, really, is that the screen is super busy. And whether it be a skill issue or not, one of the reasons why I kept dying in the earlier runs is that there's just so much on the screen all the time. And to Vampire Survivors' credit, it's easier to see because it's less colorful. Like there are a lot of like, I'm not saying the game is like just gray for Vampire Survivors, but in Gacha Fever, there's so much color. It's like a cartoon and anime craziness, honestly, is like one of the words I can think of right now, because there's just so much happening and there's so much colors, there's so much things popping up, and it's not necessarily the game's fault, because everything's pop. I mean, it is the game's fault, but it's also like not exclusively this game's problem. Every single one of these games that happen to be in the bullet heaven genre is the amount of stuff on screen is a problem. Like if you don't know what any of these things are, it is a problem. Like it's one of the reasons why you would die all the time in the beginning levels, because you don't know what things are. For instance, one of the biggest problems I have with this genre is that the screen is super busy and it takes a while. It takes at least 2 or 3 runs to like be okay with that, to understand like, okay, what is the mess going to look like on the screen for all of these games. And you kind of have to get used to that. And I think it's slightly worse for Gacha Fever only because the game is so colorful. So there is so much on the screen happening so often that it's just a flurry of colors sometimes. And I don't want to say that that is a super negative thing, but it is a thing that is definitely like, wow, there's a lot happening on screen. Another interesting thing, I think this is a bug or something like that, is every time I would spawn in a map, I would see the red number above my character. I don't know what happens. Like, I'm not actually taking damage, but something would happen that when I would spawn in at the beginning, maybe it's like calculating the damage I took at the last time I was in the map or something like that. It seemed like my character would take damage every time I spawned in, but nothing would actually happen, so it was kind of weird. I don't know why this is happening, and it didn't, like, it's not a game-breaking bug or anything, or if it isn't even a bug, or if I am actually just taking damage and I'm just not noticing at the very beginning, but it does feel that way, and I don't know why. And the fact that this is a small studio, very small studio, only a couple people from what I can tell and what they have told me. So like for a relatively new studio as well, because this is their first game as the studio. Now I'm sure these people might have made a couple games either by themselves or as a different either company or something like that, but this is their first game under this Milkshake Games label. And this being their first game, it's also super cheap. I really enjoyed it. I'm interested to see in their next games as well, and I'm really glad that they're continuing. And they did update the game a couple times, so there's even more than the base game. They did a bunch of free updates. They're working on new games right now because they need to release more games to make money and stuff. They can't be working on one game forever like some big other AAA companies can do because of millions and millions and millions of players. So I am happy that Gacha Fever is in this state, and hey, I really enjoyed it. I'll still be playing it after this, probably. I will be playing this game every once in a while. Like, I'm going to play a couple rounds of Gacha Fever. I really enjoyed how this game takes on this type of stuff. The gacha mechanic, I kind of wish there was more gacha stuff. Like, I understand, like, after every round, you do the gacha thing, but it did feel like the gacha is not as much, and I do hope that in the harder difficulties and the later levels there is more gacha style things. But even if it was just the characters and the way the whole ball thing is the thing that they are doing with the gotcha ball thing for unlocking the new characters, new items, new weapons, all that type of stuff, even if it's just that, that's totally fine. I get it. It's still fun. I still really enjoyed it. And overall, I think this was a really fun game, and it's definitely worth the $6 that they charge for it, in my opinion. Thank you everyone for watching today's video. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed this style of video, let me know down in the comments if you'd like to see more of these. Let me know by subscribing as well and liking the video. If you disliked it, please hit the dislike button. I completely understand. If you would like to support me directly, please go over to my Patreon at patreon.com/thetechnojelly. You can join all of these nice people in the credits down as we're going across the screen right now. And you also get access to a live stream and a poll to vote on that site. You can come out and hang out with me. If you'd like to follow me on other platforms, I have a Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, and Threads. Thank you once again for watching the video, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye, everyone.